And what if I told you that everything you learned about Babylon was just a censored version of the truth? Get ready, because in the next few minutes, you're going to uncover secrets so shocking about the most advanced civilization of antiquity that they will completely change your view of the ancient world. And I challenge you to watch this video until the end without being impressed, because what comes next will shake your convictions about morality, power, and the limits of human ambition. The story you were told in school books deliberately omitted the most fascinating and disturbing details about this legendary metropolis. And today, you're going to discover why historians for centuries preferred to keep certain aspects of Babylonian life in silence, hidden in the shadows of time as secrets too dangerous to be revealed. Imagine walking through the streets of a metropolis that would make any modern city look primitive, where observation towers rose to heights that challenged the heavens, where gardens floated in the air as if gravity itself had been defeated by human engineering, and where the knowledge stored in gigantic libraries held secrets that even today science tries to decipher. Babylon was not just a city. It was a declaration of war against humanity's own limitations, a monument built to prove that man could rival the gods. And perhaps that's exactly why its fall was as spectacular as its greatness. When you pass through the Ishtar Gate covered with tiles that gleamed in turquoise blue under the scorching desert sun, decorated with dragons and golden bowls that seemed to come to life in the evening light, you were not merely entering a city, you were stepping into sacred ground where the divine and the human blended in ways our modern minds can barely comprehend. Every step along that processional avenue, more than 20 meters wide and flanked by walls decorated with colorful reliefs of lions, was a journey through a portal separating the ordinary world from the divine grandeur materialized in stone and clay. The walls of Babylon were so colossal that ancient historians swore chariots could race side by side along their tops, creating a suspended racetrack 18 meters high that encircled the entire metropolis for nearly 18 kilometers, protecting not just an urban center, but the beating heart of an empire that ruled the known world. 250 watchtowers dotted these impenetrable fortifications, each manned by armed soldiers who maintained constant vigilance over the Mesopotamian plains, ensuring that no threat could approach without being detected in time to mobilize the legendary Babylonian legions. Within those impenetrable walls, a complex and surprisingly advanced society flourished in ways that defy our stereotypes about the ancient world. Because while most civilizations were still struggling to build permanent settlements, the Babylonians already had sewage systems that rivaled modern infrastructure, streets planned with mathematical precision forming an organized grid, and a legal code so detailed it regulated everything from international trade transactions to the most intimate aspects of private life, creating a web of rules that maintained a social order in a metropolis that housed hundreds of thousands of inhabitants.
What makes Babylon truly fascinating is not just its architectural achievements or its military power that subdued entire nations, but the way this civilization embraced paradoxes that our modern mind considers incompatible. Because how can a society be simultaneously so advanced in women's rights and so brutal in its punishments, so liberal in matters of sexuality, and yet so rigid in its social structure, so devoted to codified justice, and yet so cruel in its practical application? These contradictions were not flaws in Babylonian civilization, but fundamental features that reveal a cultural complexity that defies our simplistic categories of progress and barbarism, forcing us to recognize that human evolution has never been a straight upward line, but a winding path full of surprising advances and bewildering regressions that coexisted in the same space and time. Let's talk about something that will deeply shock you. Women in Babylon had rights that women in many parts of the world would only achieve millennia later, rights that would make modern feminists acknowledge aspects of economic equality rarely seen even until the Industrial Revolution. They could own property in their own name, conduct independent businesses without needing male permission, lend money with interest, establishing themselves as respected financiers, file for divorce by presenting evidence of neglect or abuse, and even inherit substantial fortunes which they managed with full autonomy. There exist preserved cuneiform documents showing female merchants trading textiles and grains with distant empires, specialized female doctors treating women patients with knowledge of anatomy and pharmacology that would astonish modern practitioners, and high-ranking priestesses commanding monumental temples with budgets rivaling national treasuries and political influence extending into the very halls of the royal palace itself. A clay tablet from the 6th century before Christ records the extraordinary case of a businesswoman who not only managed multiple properties but also lent capital to other merchants, demonstrating that female entrepreneurship was not an exception but an accepted and relatively common practice in Babylonian society. But here lies the disturbing paradox that defines Babylonian complexity and reveals how progress in one area can coexist with oppression in another. This same society that granted women impressive economic freedoms also subjected them to practices that today we would consider unacceptable and severe violations of fundamental human rights. Because the Code of Hammurabi, that impressive monument to justice which established revolutionary legal rights and protections for its time, also prescribed death by drowning in the Euphrates River for a woman accused of adultery, considering the act not so much a moral transgression as a violation of the husband's property rights over his wife's sexuality, while men of the same society could legally maintain concubines without any social or legal consequence, visiting beer houses where women served drinks through golden straws, and the atmosphere encouraged encounters that defied marital norms, but only when the transgressor was male. This asymmetry reveals how Babylonian patriarchy, no matter how much space it granted to female autonomy, never completely abandoned the idea that women and men operated under different sets of moral and legal rules.
Sexuality in Babylon was treated with an openness that would make many modern societies blush with shame and question their own contemporary repressions. Because in the temples dedicated to the goddess Ishtar, the powerful deity of love, war, and fertility, practices that today we would consider profane were seen as acts of supreme devotion. Sacred rituals where the divine and the carnal merged in elaborate ceremonies that ensured the fertility of the land, the prosperity of the empire, and the continuity of the cosmic cycle that kept the universe in harmonious balance. Meticulously preserved cuneiform texts describe in vivid detail and explicit language erotic poems dedicated to the goddess and her divine lover Dumuzi, verses that were publicly recited during religious festivals, attracting crowds from across Mesopotamia, revealing a society where physical pleasure was not a sin to be hidden, but a celebration to be proclaimed, where human intimacy reflected and reenacted the union of the gods themselves, who govern the cosmos and determine the fate of mortals and immortals alike. During the New Year's festival, the most important event of the Babylonian religious calendar, it is believed that the king of Babylon himself, the supreme ruler who commanded armies and governed vast territories, participated in a sacred marriage with the high priestess of Ishtar, a woman chosen from among the daughters of the highest nobility to temporarily embody the goddess herself. This ritual was not merely symbolic or theatrical, but was considered absolutely essential for renewing the vital forces of the universe, transferring divine power through the physical act of union atop the ziggurat, legitimizing royal authority and ensuring celestial blessings for the coming year. Statues, elaborate temple reliefs, and cylinder seals discovered by archaeologists often depicted scenes of sexual activity in explicit detail, leaving no room for prudish interpretations. And these artistic representations were not hidden away in obscure corners, but publicly displayed as a natural part of life, often serving as fertility amulets that couples kept in their homes in hopes of conceiving healthy children to carry on their family lineages. But do not think for a moment that Babylon was a society without rules, consequences, or moral structure, because the Code of Hammurabi, that legal masterpiece inscribed with precision on a polished black stone stele more than 2 meters tall and distributed in copies throughout the empire, so that no one could claim ignorance of the law, established 282 laws covering virtually every aspect of human existence. Many of these laws prescribed punishments with a calculated brutality that makes us shudder even after millennia of historical distance. The famous principle of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, which became synonymous with retributive justice, was not gratuitous cruelty born of primitive sadism, but represented a revolutionary advancement in the administration of justice by limiting disproportionate revenge and establishing mathematical equivalence between crime and punishment. Before this innovative code, a minor offense could trigger bloody family vendettas that destroyed entire generations and threatened the social stability of whole communities. A doctor who failed in a delicate surgery could have his hand amputated, permanently eliminating his ability to practice the profession he had abused, serving as a terrible warning to other practitioners about the importance of competence and extreme care. A builder whose structure collapsed and killed the owner was to be executed immediately, and if the victim was the owner's son, the builder's son would pay with his own life, a shocking demonstration of exact reciprocity that illustrated the logic of proportional equivalence permeating every aspect of the Babylonian legal system, which lawmakers considered the only truly just way to balance the cosmic scales of universal order. A merchant who used falsified weights to deceive customers faced not only financial penalties, but could also be executed depending on the severity of the fraud, because the Babylonians understood that trust in commerce was fundamental to the prosperity of the empire, and any threat to that trust had to be eliminated with maximum severity to protect the integrity of the economic system that sustained their entire civilization. Everyday life in Babylon revealed the complexity of this civilization. While nobles feasted in luxurious halls with rare wines and exotic fruits, common people lived simply on bread, dates, and figs, sustaining the metropolis through specialized trades. Potters, blacksmiths, carpenters, and weavers worked within guilds that regulated quality and prices, forming a sophisticated urban economy based on cooperation and the transmission of knowledge from generation to generation. At night, Babylonians sought entertainment in religious board games, beer houses filled with music and storytellers, or athletic competitions that valued skill and courage over bloodshed, reflecting a culture that celebrated mastery above brutality. The fall of Babylon, shrouded in symbolism, revealed the fragility of human greatness. The empire that once seemed eternal, with its towering walls and precise laws, collapsed in a single night of arrogance and revelry under King Belshazzar. The legendary hanging gardens, the temples, and the palaces were swallowed by the desert and by oblivion, leaving behind only clay fragments that remind the world that even the mightiest civilizations are as fleeting as flowers that bloom at dawn and wither by dusk. Now that you know the secrets official history chose to hide, the fascinating and disturbing truths that teachers avoid mentioning and textbooks deliberately omit, I want to know your honest and thoughtful opinion in the comments. Do you think Babylon was truly advanced society ahead of its time, or a fundamentally contradictory empire built on unsustainable paradoxes that ultimately ensured its own destruction? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos where we'll continue revealing shocking truths about ancient civilizations that changed the course of human history. And if this video surprised you as much as we promised at the beginning, if each revelation exceeded your expectations and challenged your previous beliefs, share it right now with someone who loves history and is ready to have their mind completely blown by knowledge that goes far beyond the superficial pages of school books. Because together, we're going to systematically unearth all the secrets they've tried to keep hidden for millennia in the shadows of time.